Hi everyone, it's Toby. Welcome to my channel. Today we're looking at how to draw people. Now I've done before in the past videos about drawing these really simple shape-based people, and we'll have a really quick look at that. But really today is about drawing what you see, not what you think you see. So I've got a question for you first. Do your people look like this? Kind of a caricature, not quite real, humanoid, but we just haven't got it quite right. If so, then you might just not quite be seeing what you actually see. Instead, you're thinking about what you think you see and you're drawing that. And so in today's video, we're going to get you over that obstacle, over that hurdle, looking at not just the ink, but also the colours and how to bring your people to life. So drawing people is a scary subject, but we're just going to dive in. We're going to dive in, start with those really simple people. I've got ideas here from a scene that we can use to draw along to, but let's again just focus first on those hyper simplified people. And with these we just say everyone's got a head, a circle, a body which is a triangle, and some legs which are an upside down triangle. And these people work great to fill up a scene. So look in the background, if I just do these shapes in repetition, we'll find these people fill a scene. Again, we can look at these scenes I showed you already. And look, these hyper simplified people, they work. So first things first, just focus on your confidence of using these very simple shape-based people to fill your scenes. But we can take it to another level. And the next level is still shapes. But here we're focusing on the individual shapes, the person's silhouette, the shapes which make up that individual silhouette. And this is where, instead of saying everyone's head is a circle, everyone's body is a triangle, we break it down. So we can find this lady, the lady in the pink dress on the left. Her head is kind of two different sized semicircles. Her body then is basically like a rhomboid with a little notch, and then her dress forms another sort of rectangle with slightly wonky sides. Now we can just finish this shape off. We don't have to think about the handbag, but actually sometimes adding in these key parts of the silhouette, this handbag is obviously part of the silhouette, sometimes it's helpful because look, now that we have that handbag in and we start drawing her arm, which is just basically another rectangle, we can find, well look, the elbow is just below the top of the bag. The wrist, then where's the wrist? It's just at the edge of the bag. It kind of crosses over the left hand side there. And then we can also get how big the hand is. So by including key parts of the silhouette, which aren't just the person, sometimes actually we're simplifying things, making it easier. Another really key thing to consider when we're doing a silhouette is we're doing the silhouette. So what do I mean? And I've just said the same thing twice. Well look, this lady's legs, we don't need to divide them into two separate legs. We're just grabbing her whole silhouette. So the legs, they work even if we just treat them as another basically little square with wonky sides. So don't overdo things, just flow with the silhouette, keep it simple. We can move on to the child here, the little chap in the grey shirt. Here we are just again grabbing the key parts of the silhouette, using little extra marks which aren't part of the silhouette, like dividing where his t-shirt is. Again, it lets us place his hands and place his arms. Here we might want to keep the top half of the legs as one, but then that gives us a sort of point at which we can provide movement. So having the legs separated out gives us a bit of movement. It's part of the key sort of aspect of the silhouette here. But in just a slight sort of advance on our shapes, focusing on the individual silhouette, not getting too bogged down into the nitty gritty, the silhouettes, just the simple silhouette, not the details. Well, look, we have people, and they'll become a little bit more clarified if we just make the actual silhouette bolder as well. So if we just look at this lady coming off the page, just by making her silhouette bolder, making it less loose and sketchy, look, it's a really, for me, a really convincing person, but without too much fuss, without creating too much drama without overdoing things. Next, we can start adding details like a pair of glasses on this lady. But details is something we need to really think about carefully. It's easy to do aspects which aren't the human, so adding in the wristwatch, adding in the glasses, adding in the texture there to the bag, giving it that kind of hatched appearance. What can be challenging is actually focusing on human details. It's very easy to go wrong because when our brains and our automatic heads, what we see in a human, we focus on the eyes, the nose and the mouth, and everything else we sort of forget about. And suddenly, if we just draw what we think we see, we lose the chin, the cheeks, the forehead, the eyes, the nose and the mouth. This is the key triangle of recognition. It actually makes up a very small amount of the face. But you'll see when children draw people, when people who aren't used to drawing people draw people, when we draw people from our imagination, these parts of the face become huge. They become way too big. When in reality, from a distance, just look at these reference photos. You can barely make out the noses. You can barely make out the eyes. They're just little dots of darkness. So when we start focusing on human details, actually, it's really good to be aware that, we just pop a man in the background. Where his hands are, the fact he's looking at a phone is really important. Perhaps this lady's sunglasses are really important. Perhaps this boy, we've given him a little nose, a little ear. That gives us something about the direction he's facing. But just a touch of an eye is more than enough. So don't over-focus on the human details. Focus on the bits which matter. That is their silhouette. That's where are their legs pointing. That's what direction is their head angling in. That isn't trying to draw, or what normally ends up happening is overdraw the details of their face, their eyes, their nose, their mouth. Focus instead on the general big picture, and suddenly you'll have a far more effective scene. Now, we can move on to colours. Having covered the line work behind our people, we can move on to splishing and splashing on a bit of colour. And again, colours are easy. I don't change my palette to do colours. I'm not saying this is going to be 100% accurate, but it's still going to be believable. It's still going to match the person. And all we need to colour any person, in my belief at least, is 4 colours. We've got a nice red, so primary red here, Scarlet Lake, a primary yellow, Hansa yellow medium, then a warm brown colour. For me, I've got a quinacridone sienna. Now with those 3 colours, you can make any sort of pink skin tone, or a sort of more oriental skin tone. If we add in some indigo, then we can bring a lot of brown and dark to that. So something like an indigo or a Payne's grey even, and you can suddenly get more dark brown, high melanin skin tones out of just some very simple colours. But look, if we mix just the yellow and the red together, we get this bright orange. If we add a bit of quinacridone to that, we get a colour which will only be seen really on something like Made in Chelsea. That's just not a real skin tone, is it? So how on earth am I claiming to be correct about this? Why am I saying these colours are all you need? Well, the trick is that skin tones are very pale. So just look what happens if we add water and water and water to the red. Red alone, we end up with this believable pink skin tone just through watering down our colours. We need all that water. The same with the yellow. If we just blend that all the way down, get loads of water, somewhere down there is a really believable skin tone. And in between, mixing them together, adding little bits of quinacridone sienna, adding little bits of indigo. That is how, with lots of water, you can blend these colours together and end up with these very gentle tones, which become believable, become that subtle, soft tone of people's skin. Now it's very easy to go a bit overboard. Look what happens if I add a bit of red in there by accident. The key is to recognise when something's happened and just pull back that tone a bit. And now look, we've pulled it back, we've removed lots of the pigment, added more water, and we're back to this rather lovely, believable skin tone, which we can add to face, arms, hands, whatever you like. all we're doing here is a little mix of these 2 or 3 colours. We could try something a bit different, a little bit more quinacridone sienna, and we can give our boy a slightly darker skin tone, just very subtly darker though. And the reason it's subtle is because, remember, skin tones are rather subtle. They are not these big standout things. They just seem important to us because we as humans find humans important, and we tend to overestimate and over-exaggerate things when we create them. So just focus on these simple colours if you want some realistic colours to your skin. But realism isn't the only way to do it. I think a just as good way of creating people, bringing them to life, is to be abstract. So my rather large shape-based ultra simplified man, I could just add some blue and red to, and that is going to bring him to life. These little people in the background, just adding spikes of colour, a little bit of turquoise, a little bit of orange to all their heads. Again, that is a way to highlight the people as people. Obviously they're not realistic, but that they don't need to be realistic to be understandable and to add to your art and to add to your scene. And for me, they're a perfectly valid way of producing people in your scene. A final really quick way of doing this is without any ink at all. You can do these sort of carrot people, as they're called, often using little washes of paint, just little watercolour washes. You can create these abstract shape-based people, washing the colour around, and in a matter of seconds produce a couple of little chaps walking down a street. Really great ways of adding people to your scene without any stress, to have fun and be able to suddenly fill up those street scenes, all those rural scenes, with people, with life, with busyness. And like that, we are done. So there are loads of little tips how to ink and how to paint your people. Don't overdo it, don't overthink it, just dive in, have fun, and start filling your scenes with people. If you want more tips like this, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment, ask a question. So thank you everyone for watching my little sketching videos. If you enjoy my content, please do subscribe to my channel because it makes me really, really happy. Thanks again.